gencon, and everyone's feeling really energetic. Hello in Twitch land. Welcome to our gencon experience, and I'm having a great time. My name is Ben Looms, in case you didn't know. I am the CEO and owner and creative director of Syrinscape. In case you've been living under a rock, Syrinscape is an app that creates beautiful, immersive sound and music for tabletop games. We've had a license with Pathfinder since the very beginning, and Pathfinder is one of our beloved systems, and we love creating sounds for their adventures and for their monsters and their locations. I am going to today talk about why we use music and sound in tabletop role-playing games, how they work. I'm going to show you a little bit of a prep for a session that you might be playing. So I'll go through the process of how you'd use the fantasy player here to prepare for a game. I'll do a little bit of a deep dive into the sound design that is in Syrinscape and how you can actually recreate that sound design yourself in the creator and things like that. Sort of what elements and parts of sound go into creating a complete scene. And yeah, and at the end, I'll try and leave a fair chunk of time to answer questions. So be thinking of questions. And at the end, you can approach the mic and we can sort of let you guys steer the conversation. So that's my intention. All right. Oh, I had a video ready. Let me just bring up a video. I wonder if I remember where I put it. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. Is that it? Yes. I'm prepared. Okay, good. Right, I need to bring up the Hell's Rebels music. This wonderful music that we did for Hell's Rebels. I'm going to go, I'm going to go Electric Hell. Okay, good. Think. Watch this. Awesome. That's a bit more juicy. Now I'm going to bring up 1920s car chase. Just jump. And this bailing. See the way he's walking around now? Okay. Now I'm going to bring up Spooky, I think it is. Grand thunderous organ. Okay, and one more. We're thinking about what this music's doing to the scene. I love how ominous his eyes look now. tired he looks there. There you go. Does that tell you something? Awesome. So what the hell was the music doing? How is it making the images look different? To me, there's a couple of his actions sort of didn't gel with the music a few times, but fairly ably, the music was able to completely reinterpret how he looked literally. In my experience, looking at those, it changes his expression, changes the interpretation of what is in his eyes and what he's thinking. When the spooky music came on, a boat appears, which is like, well, that's a foreboding boat. There might be something, unusual there. When the car chase music was on, it was highlighting the sort of the madcapness of his movements and making his leap look jolly, and his rushing around the sort of the boat look really harried and cute and funny, which is an extraordinary thing, isn't it? Quite amazing. What is the music doing? It's basically applying an interpretation on top of the scene at a subliminal level. We're not going, oh, I hear trombones doing glissandi. He must be a jolly fellow. And we don't sort of say that there's a low, ominous pitch in the piano that's at a minor ninth from the next note that came. That designates that I must feel he's untrustworthy. But it does that nevertheless. It actually, music can develop a character so that if we associate that spooky music, that spooky piano music with Jack Sparrow, you might be having a conversation between the lovers later on in the movie, and just a couple of motifs of that that spooky music comes back, and immediately our mind is cast to that character. Is he behind the camera? Is he sneaking around? Is there something untrustworthy about one of the lovers who's actually in cahoots with that evil character? It creates linkages for us. That concept is called a leitmotif. You may have heard of. Wagner invented them. He thought it would be a great idea to have each character to have a running theme through his operas so that he could basically return to that theme and build up the meaning associated with that musical moment. If you think of the James Bond leitmotif, every time he does something awesome, like just happen to have a bar heater on hand right next to the bath and electrocute the baddie, teaching people through electricity. Or every time he does a particularly fantastic sort of sliding turn around a tight Italian street in an awesome expensive car, that theme comes, and we come to associate that with him. And even though the fact that I just sang it badly to you on a Sunday morning, we're thinking James Bond, we're thinking of certain things. If you think of the Lord of the Rings, films are littered with leitmotifs. Dun, da, 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 da. It makes us think of that awesome fellowship, and that particular moment. That theme is used very strongly as they crest over the mountain. Or da da dum, dum da dum dum, da da dum. Makes us think of the Shire and how innocent and beautiful it is, and how it needs to be protected. Or of course, if we go da dum, da dum. Dum, 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 dum. Just one tiny musical idea has an association of fear and terror. And if you hear that, if you're in the water and you think about that theme even, it creates an involuntary, visceral reaction. That's why we use music. If you're going to use only the power of your descriptive words and the tone of your voice to create mood and immersion for your players, then I would argue that you're missing out on a whole lot of potential power and immersion in your role-playing games. When we started Syrinscape, we really were making the argument about 6 years ago, hey, you should use music in role-playing games. And there were plenty of people who said, oh, I don't do that, that's spoiling the art form. I just prefer to use my slate and my pencil and my chisel and chisel my hit points in. That's an unfair representation, I'm sorry. We are literally not making that argument anymore, ever, at the stand when we talk to people. Everyone's using music in role-playing games because they realize the power. It's just a matter of how you want to use it, to what extent it distracts the players from the game, and particularly distracts the game master from the game, and how much preparation it takes, and how much attention it takes away from this social game. So hopefully you got a little bit of an idea. I'll give you some ideas about prep and things like that. And some, I love talking about this stuff. Good, but wait, there's more. Because movies don't only use music, do they? They use sound design as well. because we have all sorts of, there's a whole nother wealth of visceral reactions and associations with various kinds of sounds, specific recognized sounds, certain combinations of tones and things like that. So I'm going to go through sort of expanded version of the super fast demo. Who's seen our demo at our stand? Okay, so not too many of you. Good. I'm going to give you a sort of similar pathway of that demo, but I'm going to show you a prep, something that you might do to prepare a scene. So we're going to have a medieval village, relatively jolly, but then a heavy storm is going to come over to wet the spirits of the party, and sort of there might be some foreboding thunder, which will make them think something's bad, and then the cathedral bells are going to go off, and a dragon's going to attack. And then the dragon's going to leave, and the rain will subside, and we'll just be left with weeping men and crying women, and that sort of. How would we prepare that session? And I'll show you precisely what you'd need to do. You'd need to have access to the Red Dragon City Raid, which is a Pathfinder licensed sound set, which we actually give away free with the Syrinscape player, and the Storm sound set, which is another one that comes free with the Syrinscape player. So we need a peaceful morning, which is one of the built-in moods. Let me actually delete this mood, which I made before. Quite a subtle sound set. Sound of city. Sounds like a cart's going past. Figured itself. Occasional dogs. What did I say? I said rain was going to start. So I'm going to need to start some rain. So I'm going to set that just right. Now, rather than do that during the game, I actually want to create a preset that contains that peaceful morning. Rain starts. Excellent. And I'm going to move it up into position. So the first thing I do when we arrive at play is to hear that peaceful morning. Second thing, I just reach over and touch the rain starts. And I want to have some thunder appear. Awesome. So I'm going to save that as a preset as well. Foreboding thunder. I'll move that up. Okay, I can also just reach over to the storm sound set here and just touch a couple of thunder one shots. Okay. Then when you tap the dragon battle. This dragon battle doesn't have rain, does it? So turn the music down a little bit. Go back over to the storm and turn that rain back on. Thunder and lightning. Also going to turn the rain on. Okay, there we are. Raining aftermath. Move that up. Move that one down. Okay, and there we are. I'm done. So, at the beginning of the game, I set the scene with just a peaceful, almost imperceptible, pleasant village where everything's happy and everything's going to go on. At some point, I just subtly reach over and make one click like that, and the rain will just start. I can continue game mastering. It's raining now. The water's running down behind your neck, down your armor. It's making you wet and miserable. You get out, the place is booked. You get out of the rain, but there's no room in the inn or something like that. At some point, I just reach over and touch that. You've got Syrinscape sitting on a tablet. You just reach over and touch. If I want a particularly dramatic moment, just pop over here and give that a single touch. Trigger the cathedral warning bells. Touch the dragon attack. The battle starts. No! Maybe at some point, I want to turn the volume down a bit and turn the music up once the sound effects sort of. Oh, one thing I like to do is turn off the breath weapon. It auto breathes every now and then. But instead, I like to trigger the breath weapons when I actually roll the dice. the raining aftermath. And then the rain subsides. Does that make sense? Now, the whole reason I made Syrinscape was so that it's that simple. So that rather than trying to find a YouTube video or a Spotify playlist of a dragon attacking the rain on a Tuesday with cathedral bells, and having to manage that and start that and stop that, and having an ad appear or whatever, that's all all that prep's sort of done for me, and I can actually make a few small changes to sort of color that scene like I wanted to. But apart from that 4 minutes prep for something, I mean, as we all know, that sort of scene in a game, the player's probably going to spend 45 minutes negotiating with the flaming bartender about how much their beer is. Eventually, the dragon battle starts, and that takes a good, half an hour, 45 minutes, or whatever. So that's almost a whole session for you, just done like that. Think of questions so you can ask them at the end. Awesome. I'd love to now talk about the anatomy of sound design, and I've got a few fun things just to give you a bit of insight into what makes that scene for a couple of us. So I've got Woodland Journey. Oh yeah, that's right, we're going to feature the Fall of Plaguestone, the adventure we released for the launch adventure for 2E. Super exciting. Compare Woodland Journey to Blighted Woods in Ranger's Request. No spoilers. Okay, here's our Woodland Journey. This is a mood here. What it does is it starts and stops various elements of the sound design and sets them to a volume. This little ring that's going around here is a timing ring. There's some parameters in this element that say when it's going to play a certain sample, and that's randomized. So if we look at the buzzard, it's not going to play a buzzard for ages and ages. It must have just played one. If I double click it, it'll play a buzzard. And then it will wait a randomized time and play another buzzard. So let's just have a step through and look at the elements that are involved in this Woodland Journey. None up there. Okay, cool. There's distant boars. Almost, you probably almost can't hear that, eh? You hear that? A really distant boar sound, okay? Every now and then a boar will just go rah, 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 rah. Imperceptibly, even subliminally. Gives you a sense of what sort of woodland this is, what sort of is out there. And the players aren't going to go, oh, a boar sound, and they're certainly not going rah, 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 rah. Right, then we have a bird song element. Once again, also really quiet. But that's kind of the whole point. Hey, wind in the trees. I love this one. I was she oaks. Is that what you call them in America? Trees with long, stringy leaves. I was near them, and they were making this amazing wind sound as they rustled against each other, and I recorded it. You hear the deeper sound of the wind and the kind of the rustly sound of those light leaves. And once again, there's about 10 samples there. And they're being randomized and put in different orders. And we have a sample which we call the ill wind. Kind of a slightly spooky wind sound. And then we start to have some animal sounds. Woodpeckers, so that's a sample just played back. Now it's going to wait, it looks like ages and ages. There's another one. I love this sound. Mm-hmm. Buzzard. Okay, let's see what else is playing here. Oh, the buzzard actually. Oh, wolf howls. Interesting. Okay, that'll have a subliminal effect on the players, and that's all that's playing on Woodland Journey. Oh, more birds. Okay, let's compare that with Blighted Wood. That deep creaking sound. Deep sounds to humans are quite disturbing, because if something has a big larynx, then it's going to be something that's going to eat you. So that kind of low creaking sound is a bit intimidating. We've still got that wind in the trees going. We've got the ill wind a fair bit louder. wolf howls are still going. And now we have crows, not a very nice bird. And there's that creaking. Let's have a look at this creaking trees element. And then, subliminally, I bet none of you noticed, but there was actually music playing. And there it is. Also has a heartbeat in it. Yeah, hear that? So all that combined makes this sound. Once again, your players aren't going to go, oh, I hear a slow, steady heartbeat that creates a sense of foreboding due to the fact that I've seen multiple movies where that's been used as a leitmotif for impending danger. But by gosh, it's going to have that effect. Syrinscape, making people feel slightly uneasy. But that's kind of the point. Okay, I'll show you another thing we did. The chase scene in... No spoilers, someone gets chased in the in the Fall of Plague's Own Adventure. Here we go. Hear the music more obviously there, as you would in a movie. You'd expect some music to come on. Backgroundy movie music. It's not a singer singing, "Oh no, I'm being chased," or it's not a big obvious theme. It's fairly repetitive, but has this song actually goes up by a semitone every sort of 16 bars or so. So continually rising, and by the time it gets to the top key, it actually loops all the way back to the beginning and then just continues to rise. Okay, what else is happening? Okay, blustery wind. Armor foley. Now that is the sound of this bag. Okay, sounds like some bits of leather and some bits of metal, doesn't it? Ah, the wonderful world of Foley. Here we've got horses galloping. Whistly wind is good wind. It creates a sense of sort of speed. Gravel countryside. Yeah, sound of footsteps on dirt. That's an essential part. It would kind of sound weird if there was a chase happening and no footfalls. Running female grunts, running male grunts and horses. Did you notice them before? Maybe, maybe not. It'd be kind of weird to be having people on horseback chasing someone and no vocalization is happening of any kind, wouldn't it? If something's at odds with what you're imagining, then you're going to create a dissonance there that will break immersion. So that's really super important. Okay, cool. Okay, coming soon to questions. Yep, about the right time. So think of your questions. So when you're creating these sounds in the online player, which has all the creation functions available, you can take a scene like that, and you could either like we did in the player, you could combine dragon noises with it or some storms. So it could be a chase scene. Well, let's do that because that would be fun. Start that scene, and you could do this in the creator as well and create your own sound set. Here we are, red dragon roars. Let's get chased by a dragon. Excellent. In a storm. Hooray! It's getting better and better. Now I'm hearing a bit too much general bumpering and rumbling. Should turn that down a bit. That's a bit better. Let the music up a bit. Yeah. I'm going to save this in a place called Custom Moods so I can find it later. There you go. Does that make sense? Awesome. I'd love to be guided by questions for the rest of the talk. Do people have thoughts or questions or? Yep. So what you do is you come up and line at the microphone, ask your question. What you say will be broadcast on Twitter. So no politics or swearing, and not necessarily in that order.
Could you give us a lot of sci-fi campaigns? I'd love it if they were sci-fi sounds.
Cool, awesome. So we support Starfinder fully. It's a set of fantastic spaceships here, which I love. So thank you for giving me a chance to demo them. So this is a medium packed vessel. We actually fleshed out all of the starships that are in the core rulebook. So this is that starship in Idle. The packed world ships are really physical. They have clicky buttons. The Cassatha ships are like sort of Apple stores. This is it going to cruise mode. So once again, made up of all sorts of different elements all interacting. Life support extractor fan. I love returning to idle because when you're in idle, you have to do a drift jump. Listen to this. You have to sit stationary to achieve a drift jump for something like a minute. Is that right, if I recall? So you can hear it winding up. So you could actually be role-playing what's happening as this goes along, talking at your table. Wind-up sound was the sound of a washing machine getting faster. How classic is that? All right, actual Cyberpunk. So Cyberpunk Red, the game that was released at this show, we have specific sounds we have a license with them as well. "12 original songs composed by one of our composers, Joe McCullough, who's amazing. Go into a back room where the music is just in the distance. Still hear it. Walk back out into the main bar and the music will crossfade up. Go to the Ripper dock and have surgery, implants. So this content's available in Syrinscape and you can use it in your Pathfinder game if you like. And certainly your Starfinder game. More questions? I turn that off because that's awful.
So I am largely a player, not a DM. My question is there some way to export what you create? Because what I would probably be doing is working in this as prep and then sending it over to our DM who's in another state and saying, hey, what do you think of this? What do you want me to tweak? So is there a way to export that file? Like, I'm not sure if he's going to buy into the program. I absolutely am.
Fantastic,
But basically for plugging into Roll20.
Yeah, fantastic, absolutely. So we, for this specific purpose, we invented a thing called the online player. So this device you're seeing now is the fantasy player. It runs offline and downloads content onto the disk and doesn't require an internet connection while you play, which is super, super important, obviously. But there's an online version, which is like this, which is just a little box, and the user interface is on a browser on our website. So search for Syrinscape Online. All the players in a remote game can run a little applet called the Syrinscape Online Player. The person who owns the Super Siren subscription to run that game is the only person who needs to have paid anything. Everyone just follows them, and when the interface is laid out exactly the same. When they hit Dragon Battle, everyone who has an online player hears that. Also, in the online player, you fold out. So here is just an element. The only thing you're seeing is the volume. There are like literally dozens of parameters, the timing settings, the placement settings, all that, and then you bring in your sounds, you mix it all together, and then you would just give access to that person to your account. They would sign in as you, and then that sound set which you created would appear as something that they're able to use. And they could listen to it, and they could make some changes and send it back, and then you log in and you have control of it, and then that's something you can share and use. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
So basically go to the online player is quite new, and it's just basically almost ready to leave beta because the server is almost completely stable and hasn't broken during GenCon yet. So yeah, fantastic. Another question?
Question from Apple Knees. What was the inspiration behind more lighthearted sound sets like Jungle Planet Dino Laser?
Ah, yes. Oh, now I have to play it. Hooray! So every April 1st, we release a silly sound set. 3 years ago, it was a ninja sound set, which was completely silent. Dozens of elements, like ninja creeping, ninja sneaking, ninja, like it was so fantastic. And my favorite response was that someone just sent me an email that said, "You bastard! I got all the way through April Fools without falling for anything. I sat down at my gaming table, started up Syrinscape. Oh, he's released a ninja sound set. I downloaded it and like gleefully showed it to my players and discovered that it was completely silent. There is one element that that makes noise, and it's called ninja sleeping, and it's extremely loud snoring sound. Which is really and then 2 years ago we released Bugbear Battle 8-bit, and I did this whole video about how we had the highest sort of qualities of attitude towards sound editing, and it sounds like Gauntlet, if you remember that fantastic game. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so it's kind of this sort of stuff. Yeah, here we go. And then yes, Jungle Planet Dino Laser was this year's, and I'm super double proud of Dino. We talked about the samples in this sound set are of such high quality they required no processing of any kind. So they're literally me just going raw, and the music is me beatboxing. And so, actually, quite seriously, hear this dino roar. Okay. And then hear this red dragon roar, which were almost the same vocal performance. Okay? That's my voice. Through all sorts of... Amazing. So through some pitch shifting, basically just straightforward lowering in pitch, but also a little bit of formant shifting, which is the thing that takes the first important overtones of the voice and shift them down. Bit of throat rumble, a bit of that sort of thing. So yeah, so that's what's quite amazing about the power of audio editing now. Cool. And more questions? Hooray! Yep.
I ducked in a wee bit late, so I apologize if this has already been addressed.
Not a problem.
But do you offer licenses for folks to use these in actual plays, like podcasts or Twitch streams, things like that?
That's a great question. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention it. Yeah, it's one of the best things we ever did. I mean, I really did make this for myself and for us as a community. I really am a gamer, and so when we got the first few requests for people to say, "Could I use this?" I thought, of course, that's kind of what we did. And your audiences are specifically the people we want to know about Syrinscape. So basically the deal is, if you make contact with us, check out our FAQs and the stuff on the forum. The deal is Creative Commons attribution. You use Syrinscape in exchange for a shout out in the stream to say, "Hey, as always, thanks for Syrinscape, you're amazing. If you don't know about it, give it, check it out," and a link in your notes so that people can find it easily. And we're super, super happy. And then there's a whole lot of engagement you can do. If you tweet out we're going live in 10 minutes, and thanks for Syrinscape for your amazing sounds. Then we'll always try and retweet and spread your word and give you a bit of a boost.
Very cool.
So absolutely. Oh yeah. And all the sounds in the app are safe, are broadcast safe, and you won't get pinged or copyright because it's all original. And yeah.
I'm going to give you two because they're pretty related.
Uh-huh.
Are there any plans to continue making sound sets for Pathfinder First Edition Adventure Paths? And there's a sound pack for Plaguestone. Are there plans for Age of Ashes?
Okay. Oh, good questions. Excellent. And relevant to this panel. So we are 4/6 of the way through Curse of the Crimson Throne, which is a fantastic adventure in First Edition. So we'll continue and complete that probably in the next couple of months, basically. So you can play that. We've already done Rise of the Rune Lords, which is amazing. Hell's Rebels. The spooky one where everyone goes mad and there's the Yellow King. What's that called? Strange Aeons we've done as well. Next year, I'm excited to announce we will be releasing Kingmaker, which is perfect, obviously, because it's a well-loved First Edition adventure path, and it's going to be released in Second Edition as well. So when the Second Edition comes out, we'll be able to support that and soup that up. We don't have plans for Age of Ashes yet, but depending on capacity and demand. Basically, at Syrinscape, about 40% of the features that are in Syrinscape and the content that are in Syrinscape are there literally just because people asked for them. Especially features, like a master volume here on the one shot, so that I can have the main sounds playing at a certain volume, and then I go to play a one shot and it's too loud for me, so I can actually turn it down. People whinged quite a lot for that. And the more you complain, the more that it gets on our list, and then two more people complain, and boom, 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 suddenly it's at the top, and then it gets done. So yeah, so thank you for that. Any further questions? Yep.
Another softball, I hope. So how do we get it? What's your pricing model?
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you, indeed. I shall pay you later. Yeah. So the app is free to download. This app that you saw, it comes with free content, which there's 8 free sound sets in the Fantasy Player, including a dragon battle and a medieval village and a dungeon and the storm one you saw and a couple of other things, and jungle dino laser, because we're going to use that all the time. You don't even have to register to use that stuff. You can download on as many devices as you like and see whether your phone has enough power in order to run it. Then you can register to then purchase content one by one. An individual sound set, like a horrible monster, like I don't know, Kenku, let's say, will be $4.40 generally, US. That gives you permanent ownership of that. It's attached to your email password combo, and whenever you sign into any device, you have access to that content. You can sign into 3 devices simultaneously. So you could purchase Ezran and have one of your players. In fact, let's do Kyra instead. Have one of your players have Kyra at the table, and when it comes to channeling energy, instead of just saying, "Oh, I channel energy, I suppose," and okay, excellent, you'll get some points. You can just go. It was like awesome. Then, because there are there's adventure path packs, which are generally about $15 US, but because there are more than 400 sound sets in the Fantasy Player at the moment, which equates to about $1,600 worth of content, you can also subscribe to a Pathfinder subscription, $7.80 per month, which unlocks absolutely everything. Like a Netflix subscription, it'll light up, and when if your sub lapses, it lapses. But with the addition that every piece of content we release during the period of your actual live subscription, it's like you've bought it. Okay? So if we release the first chapter of Kingmaker and you're a subscriber at that time, then you'll gain access to that. And then the top level subscription is $11 per month. That gives you access to online play and all the customization capacities. So you can actually unlock this element here, open it up, import your own walking sounds, which are way better than mine, and set the timings and the positionings and the reverb and the Doppler and all that sort of stuff. Well, thank you for that question. Very useful information.
I have a request from Blithering Wither.
Uh-huh.
If all we have to do is ask, I'd love Reign of Winter.
Excellent. Well, there you go. That's gone in my brain, and it's there. So if I get sort of 3 more requests later, in the meantime. It's going to do for some winter stuff. So yeah, you can certainly fairly easily and quickly create the environment you want to match the stuff we haven't prepared. But yes, the adventure paths that we've actually fully supported are literally scene by scene. You just look at the emboldened title that's in the book and you click the button that goes with it, and that takes away a whole lot of prep. More questions? Almost out of time. Probably time for one more. Any questions? Sure. Awesome. Good. Well, thank you everyone on Twitch. Thank you for your fantastic questions. It's been an amazing journey. Thank you so much for the support of the Pathfinder community and the Paizo community. We released in Fall of Plaguestone there are orcs, which are literally Paizo fans who gave their voices at PaizoCon this year, and they sound really, really, really cool. And I did apply some processing to them so that they sound really awesome and fat. And yeah, thanks. It's been a great Gen Con. I really loved it. And see you all later.